did you kill your parents to put them out of their misery?
My concern for their misery was paramount. My goal is for the American people to recognize there's 40 million boomers. They're all going to go through the same kind of problems. It affects all of us, and we need to widen up the law so that people can deal with these kind of problems. And I did my duty to my parents.
Which parent did you suffocate first?
My father, and after he died, my mother put her head on his chest, and she was there for a few hours, and then I finished her.
September 2025 brought an astonishing criminal case to light in Albany, New York's peaceful uptown district. What started as investigators examining potential financial misconduct evolved into a murder investigation when Lorenz Kraus, age 53, voluntarily approached a television news station to admit he had killed his elderly mother and father 8 years prior. This case represents more than typical crime reporting. It chronicles how a Siena University valedictorian came to strangle his parents before burying their bodies on the family property. In an almost unbelievable turn, he then chose to walk into a news broadcaster to publicly reveal his actions. The case originated with a seemingly mundane inquiry. The Social Security Administration reached out to Albany law enforcement on May 21, 2025, requesting they check on Franz and Teresa Kraus's welfare. This elderly couple, German immigrants who had made America their home many years before, hadn't been spotted in quite some time, despite the fact that their Social Security payments kept being deposited and withdrawn. Franz Kraus had reached 92 years of age when he disappeared, having been born in Yugoslavia. His spouse Teresa was 83. The couple had created a life together in the United States, ultimately making their residence on Crestwood Court in Albany's uptown area. However, in 2017, both suddenly vanished. Investigators began examining financial anomalies. The evidence painted a troubling picture. 2 individuals who had gone missing continued receiving government payments. Someone was accessing those funds. That person turned out to be their son, Lorenz. Police obtained and executed a search warrant for the Kraus residence on Crestwood Court on September 25, 2025. Neighbors witnessed scenes that would remain with them permanently. Excavation machinery arrived, and investigators started digging in the rear yard. Wednesday, September 25th brought the discovery of the first body. The second was located the next day on Thursday, September 26th. The neighborhood looked on in disbelief as human remains were meticulously extracted from the property the Kraus family had occupied for many years. Albany Police Chief Brendan Cox addressed the media to inform the public about the grim findings. He described how investigators had been pursuing a financial crimes matter that brought them to this address. What they uncovered surpassed their grimmest predictions. Yet the most startling development was still ahead. Following the police press conference regarding the discovered remains, Lorenz Kraus made a choice that continues to baffle criminal justice professionals. He contacted WRGB, the area CBS 6 news outlet, and asked to speak with anchor Greg Floyd. Floyd had merely 10 minutes to prepare for what would rank among the most remarkable interviews in broadcast journalism history. As Floyd later explained to the Associated Press, "I was thinking that I was on a mission to find the truth of what happened." What occurred during that 30-minute conversation exceeded anything the news team could have imagined. Lorenz Kraus, appearing composed as he sat opposite Floyd, acknowledged on camera that he had taken both his parents' lives in 2017. "I buried them in their property," Kraus declared plainly during the broadcast. When Floyd sought clarification, inquiring, "You buried them in the back of your house in Albany?" Kraus verified this without wavering. Floyd, displaying what co-workers would later describe as exceptional investigative journalism, pressed forward. He understood when to push harder and when to allow silence to work in his favor. At first, Kraus wouldn't disclose the method of his parents' deaths. However, through Floyd's careful yet persistent questioning, the disturbing facts came out. Kraus recounted strangling his father, Franz, using only his hands. Subsequently, when his mother Teresa placed her head on her late husband's chest in what must have been a moment of overwhelming sorrow, Kraus strangled her using a rope. During the interview, Kraus tried to characterize the killings as acts of compassion. He maintained his parents were losing their independence and growing progressively weak. By his account, he thought he was helping them, terminating their suffering before it intensified. "My concern for their misery was paramount," Kraus explained to Floyd during their conversation. Floyd posed the question surely weighing on every viewer's mind. They knew that this was it for them, that they were perishing at your hand? Kraus portrayed the killings as swift, nearly methodical. "It was so quick," he remarked, as though the murder's brevity somehow diminished their severity. Yet the compassion narrative started falling apart upon examination. For 8 years following their deaths, Kraus kept collecting his parents' Social Security payments. When neighbors inquired about Franz and Teresa's whereabouts, Kraus claimed his parents had relocated to Germany, their native country. The explanation proved convenient. His parents couldn't dispute his story. They remained buried in their own yard while their son occupied their house and utilized their income. Observers were left wondering, how did this occur? Who was Lorenz Kraus really? Investigation into his history uncovered someone who had demonstrated considerable potential. Kraus had connections to the capital region stretching back to his teenage years at Albany High School. He subsequently enrolled at Siena University, studying political science and completing his degree in 1994 with top distinction. He earned valedictorian recognition for his graduating class. Outwardly, he seemed like someone with every advantage: intellect, schooling, prospects. Yet at some point, something went catastrophically wrong. The transformation of a valedictorian into someone who could murder his own parents continues to puzzle people. Did money troubles push him to it? Was there a psychological breakdown? Or was there something more sinister present from the beginning? Following his confession to Greg Floyd, Kraus exited the CBS 6 building. He didn't get far. Law enforcement officers were positioned in the parking area, and he was promptly arrested. CBS 6 News director Stone Grissom subsequently stated that nothing could have readied his newsroom for what they'd just experienced. The 53-year-old confessed to Floyd that he killed and buried his parents at their home in Albany, Grissom recalled, still absorbing the bizarre nature of events. The interview became critical evidence. Albany County District Attorney Lee Kindlon informed reporters that although Kraus's confession to WRGB would assist prosecutors, physical evidence and witness statements would likewise be essential for constructing their case. Lorenz Kraus appeared in Albany City Court for the first time on Friday, September 27, 2025. He was charged with multiple counts of second-degree murder and concealment of human corpses related to his parents' 2017 deaths. Throughout the 5-minute hearing, Kraus remained silent. He entered not guilty pleas to every charge. The court ordered him detained without bail at the Albany County Detention Facility. Legal documents claim that Kraus strangled his parents during a time frame between January 7 and September 30, 2017, at their Crestwood Court residence. The bodies stayed buried in the yard for 8 years until their discovery. Legal analysts have examined how Kraus's broadcast confession might affect his case. Although confessions represent powerful evidence, they aren't automatically permitted in court. Defense counsel could raise several arguments, including whether Kraus received proper rights advisement before the interview, or whether the confession was given freely or resulted from mental disturbance. Nevertheless, in this instance, Kraus voluntarily approached the television station and requested the interview. He wasn't under arrest at that time. He seemed calm and rational throughout the discussion. These circumstances will probably make challenging the confession's admissibility quite difficult. As the case moves through the judicial process, numerous questions remain without answers. Medical examiners must still definitively verify that the remains recovered from the yard belong to Franz and Teresa Kraus, though few question this will be confirmed. More critically, we may never completely comprehend what drove Lorenz Kraus to these acts. Was it genuinely about mercy as he asserted? Or were there more sinister, self-serving reasons involved? Why did he conceal his parents' deaths for 8 years, collecting their benefits and informing neighbors they departed for Germany? And perhaps most puzzling, why did he voluntarily enter a television station to confess after the bodies were found? Some theorize the guilt had grown unbearable. Others propose he wished to shape the story before formal charges arrived. Still others question whether there's a mental health component that hasn't been thoroughly examined. For residents of Crestwood Court and the wider Albany area, these revelations have proved shocking. These were individuals who resided adjacent to the Kraus family for years. They believed Lorenz's explanation that his parents had returned to Germany. They never imagined that Franz and Teresa were buried mere feet away. The case has additionally sparked troubling questions about how two senior citizens could vanish without prompting more prompt concern. It required 8 years and notification from the Social Security Administration to finally initiate the investigation that revealed the truth. The Lorenz Kraus case distinguishes itself even within America's extensive true crime landscape. It contains every element that captures public fascination: an apparently typical suburban environment concealing terrible secrets, a perpetrator who resists simple explanation, and an extraordinary televised confession that appeared unprompted. As Kraus awaits his trial, the complete narrative keeps developing. Additional details will surface during court proceedings. Expert testimony will be presented. Forensic analysis will be conducted. And ultimately, a jury will determine Lorenz Kraus's future. However, independent of the trial's result, this case has already earned its position in American criminal history. It provides a disturbing reminder that sometimes the most normal-appearing lives conceal the darkest truths, and that even the most educated and successful individuals remain capable of horrific deeds. For Franz and Teresa Kraus, who immigrated to America pursuing better opportunities and raised a son who attained academic success, their lives concluded not in the tranquil retirement they earned, but in a backyard burial, their deaths concealed for 8 years by the son they had nurtured and cherished. Their experience represents a tragedy in its purest form, a reminder of betrayed trust, deceptive appearances, and justice that, despite being postponed, can ultimately be served.